And family members gathered in Stranraer earlier to watch both matches, and James Mahon was there for us.
Amy and Ian, I think I'm in the happiest place in Scotland right now. An afternoon of tension, 5,000 miles from Beijing, but they were with their sons every step of the way. And we're going to start right over here with some very, very proud parents. How do you feel when you're watching that today?
Nervous, but very, very, very proud. The boys have worked so hard for this. And I know that everybody here and everybody, I think, all over Scotland and Britain have got behind them. And it just means a lot to us. And I'm so pleased for them.
His home, his house is actually just behind me here in these woods. There's a lot of intrigue, a lot of confusion here in this very quiet subdivision in Hixon. A sustained police presence. In the last 45 minutes, we've counted over a dozen police cars have rushed in here.
This is the alternative. Mosul University's main city campus, bombed and destroyed over the last 2 years. Professors fleeing for their lives in its location just a few hundred metres from the war on terror's front line.
No running water, no electricity and no Wi-Fi, and broken wooden desks. Yet over 1,000 students here at this university are trying to move forward.
Following government guidelines, it should be possible to just say, look, take off your masks, you know.
The cruise industry is worth an estimated £10 billion to the UK economy, with port calls bringing in six figures to cities just like Belfast. And that has knock-on effects for bars, restaurants and, of course, bus tour operators. Some Dumfries business owners are deciding to move away from commercial property and more towards residential outlets as demands grow and grow for renters from all across the world.
James Mahon is at the festival site for us now. James.
It's damp here in Dumfries, but hopefully it'll be a lot sunnier this summer. It's third time lucky really for Doonhame. A lot of cancellations, a lot of postponements over the last 3 years, and a very patient festival organiser, Sandy. Sandy, it's going to happen hopefully, fingers crossed. What's it been like for you making this become a reality?
So the last few years have obviously been very stressful for us, and we just kind of fell at the last hurdle last year, and then we brought it all back together, and here we are again.
On this, one of the final days of COP26, climate activists have once again blocked one of the major arteries in Glasgow city centre. This time, Paisley Road West.
We've got 3 to 4 years to really make a big difference, as they did before the last World War, or we're toast.
Farmers across Dumfries and Galloway don't want to have to go back to the situation they were in over the last 18 months, having to shear sheep and then burn or bury the wool, with prices too low to make it worthwhile to sell. Fleeces from these animals are turned into everything from jackets to hats and rugs. But the money they're making at the moment just isn't enough.
You have to handle the wool, pack it, then you have to transport it to where it's graded. Then the graders have to grade it. They then have to repackage it and send it to Bradford where it's sold, and you've got selling costs in that.
Earlier today, Sean Blaney was sentenced to 21 years in prison and will serve 14 of those for the brutal murder of his older brother Leon in June of this year. Leon's body was found by their mother. Some of the bridge debris has been swept onto the banks and access restrictions are now in place. This coming Friday, local elected officials are meeting to discuss what happens next to replace the two bridges.
There's also got to be a prioritisation of individual schemes to determine what are the best and most appropriate schemes and the ones that have got, frankly, the greatest urgency about them. However, in Dumfries, White Sands businesses say the time for talking is over. Would you walk away from all of this? After all these years, would you walk away?
I've got a bit of emotional attachment to my building. I've been here for 36 years. I started here when I was 16.
You can see behind me the sign says condemned, do not enter, and residents here in Ridgedale have welcomed the condemning of 2412 East 13th Street. Authorities have told the woman who lives in this house to vacate it by tonight. So many areas of Chattanooga were affected. You mentioned Damnicola, you mentioned Lee Highway.
Yes.
We were in Cleveland earlier. There was concern in Athens.
Yes.
It's nothing spreads faster than fear. The personal toll this takes on people, because we don't often look at mental health in environments where you're constantly under pressure like this. The price of milk has risen in Scotland, but this winter dairy farmers here say they are coping with a growing number of other issues after heavy storms and flooding.
Parts for machines, tractors, vans, a lot of spare parts are hard to get a hold of, just because we've realised that we don't make anything in this country now. Everything's imported. That's sort of coming home to roost.
Added to this, shortages of timber and steel have stopped some farmers from mending or building more sheds to keep their animals safe and warm. Scottish Farming Union representatives are also concerned that if these costs keep rising, that many farmers across Dumfries and Galloway will walk away from the sector altogether.
On the outskirts of Mosul, we passed this Christian Orthodox church. Sadly, it hasn't been used for worship for some time.
So I'm standing in what is called a tunnel, and many of the Islamic State would hide underground in these tunnels and spring out and shoot members of the Peshmerga and the Iraqi army over the last 6 months to a year.